Alright everyone, hello and welcome back to our Taiji Cao series. We're working on developing the core foundational patterns of movement that are essential for our Taiji practice. Now in this lesson, we're going to continue from our previous lesson with our practices in a wider stance. So make sure that you are warmed up as usual. Make sure your legs especially are warmed up and ready. A lot of these are very strenuous on the legs, these wider stances like this. And as I've said before, you can adjust this based on your current level of ability. So if you are only comfortable doing a hip to shoulder width stance, that's totally fine. You can adapt your practice to that. But what we're going to be demonstrating here is going to be in this wider stance, just a bit wider than shoulder width. We're going to settle down, dropping the energy as we normally do, dropping the weight, center of gravity, allowing the spine to elongate, hips to tuck, relax and breathe. Make sure that you maintain your expansiveness between the arms. Allow the arms to collapse in. Keep the shoulders relaxed. Feel the breath. Filling the abdomen, expanding through the whole body. Make sure the knees, if you do have a wider stance, make sure the knees are still aligned over the feet and track over the toes. Make sure you're not caving in or bowing out too far. Make sure you're not going over the toes. Relax and settle. When you feel ready, you can lift, breathe, inhale. Roll and exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Keep the arms relaxed, chest relaxed. Inhale. Up. Now from here, we're going to rotate to the left, keeping the hips straight, rotating from the waist. Arms will just follow along. Rotate until we're about 45 degrees. We're going to bring the palms close. Imagine that you're grabbing onto something, that you're grasping something between your hands. You're about to pull it down. That's the feeling we want to have here. The relationship that we want to have with our hands. Over. Grasp. Keep the palms relaxed. Don't actually grab. Just imagine the feeling, grasping. Now we're going to settle down. Sink the weight down into the right inguinal area, down into the hip joint. We're going to sink the weight down and just sit down with our weight into the right leg. We're compressing and loading down into the right leg. Now, when we do this, we don't want to pull. Notice the upper body is not pulling across. Notice we're not moving from the arms. And notice we're not shifting too far in this direction. We're not moving the hip out. So we're not taking this and just pulling it like this. We're allowing the weight to settle. We're sitting down into the right leg. The arms will naturally come along and pull down as we do. So this is demonstrating one of the most important principles in Taiji movement, that the arms The upper body is not doing anything of its own. It's not tensing, it's not pulling, it's not pushing. All the apparent motion of the upper body is resulting directly from the movement of the lower body, the shifting of the weight, rooting into the ground, the spiraling of energy up and down through the legs and through the lower body, through the waist. The arms, the upper body, the torso just follows along for this movement. Side, sink. Back up to center. Back up into our normal stance. And again, if you need to, if it starts to burn too much, you can bring the legs together about hip to shoulder width as we normally stand. Come up like this, over, and just sink down a little bit. Just sink a little bit into the right leg. Then come back up. You can turn over the next side. Rotate. Right. Grasp. And just sink. Sinking down. Closing in to the left block. The idea here is going across, grasping. We're guiding the energy downward, diagonally into the ground. We're sinking our weight down into the gua, rooting into the ground, compressing the leg so that we can compress, strengthen, and then release back. Receiving and emitting energy. Back to our stance. Inhale. Arms come up. Relax. Release all tension from the body. Rotate from the waist. Grasp. Sit down, settle down, sink down in to the right hip. Collapsing the gua, rotating the waist, compressing and sitting down into the right leg. Now, when we do this, another thing you want to watch out for is you don't want to lean over. We want to make sure that the spine is straight and that we're still upright. So as we come down, we don't want to lean. So look from the side here. Notice we're straight up. We don't want to lean forward as we're coming down. We want to stay upright. We're just settling in rather than leaning in. So here again is something to consider as you choose the width of your stance. Only go out as far as you're able to remain upright when you settle into the hip. Make sure that you're not having to compensate by leaning over. Down and back. Down and back. This is the flowing exercise that you can practice in this lesson. Rotate. Sink. Compress. Release and extend back up to center. Make sure your joint alignments are good. Always be mindful. Press and release. Press and release. Again, make sure you're not leaning over. Make sure that your opposite leg to the weighted leg, whatever leg you're sinking into, make sure the opposite leg is maintaining that expansiveness. Make sure your knee and foot are in good alignment, that you're not collapsing in or bowing out. Always, always be checking your alignment in every movement. Sink, compress, release, back up. One more. Rotate. Sink, compress, release, back up. Rotate. Sink, compress, release, back up. Now, you can practice this. Excellent exercise for strengthening the legs. You're really going to feel the burn the first few times you do this. Definitely, if you're not used to having these wider stances or holding these sort of crouched positions for long periods of time, it's going to be a great exercise to strengthen the legs, strengthen your endurance. As you feel the burn, breathe through it. Don't push yourself too far. Again, be mindful of your limits. We don't want to risk injury. But as you start to feel the burn, start to develop the ability to breathe through it and relax it. You want to release that tension so that we can start doing these more strenuous techniques while still being in a relaxed state without clenching the muscles. It's also excellent to be able to shift, open, and close through these hip joints, the gua area here. This is a very vital point to be able to master as we're developing our Tai Chi practice. So take this, practice it, take it slowly, only do as much as you're able, and we'll see you again in the next lesson.